I just want to also add, I also want to add one point I think that's very important in what we've been saying, which is the Nas judgment in 2009 said one very important statement. They said the court does not confer rights, the court merely confirms them. And I think this is something we have to remember. Our rights are not given to us by any one institution. Our rights cannot be taken from us by any one institution. Our rights derive from the Constitution. As Anand has just said, in 1977, this Supreme Court stood up and said that it would be the guardian of the basic structure of the Indian Constitution. It did something no other Supreme Court in this world has done. It said that it was the only authority, that government could not amend the basic structure of the Constitution, because that's how powerful fundamental rights work. What we are saying today is our rights come to us from that Constitution. Our rights come to us from our sense of dignity, our sense of self, our sense of humanity. And no single judgment has the ability to take that from us. I think what is important for us to do now, and I think this is something that is a message that must go across, in addition to responding to the judgment, our primary purpose is to come together as queer people in this country to remind everyone who has fought for so long to hold up a sense of their own dignity in spite of insurmountable odds in this country, that their fight will not be set aside, that we will meet on the street, that we will continue to work, that our notions of dignity will not be stripped from us, and they are not up for barter because of a technicality of the reading of the Constitution. I also want to say that I think that we are in that the social life of this judgment is still up for grabs. We had said always that the victory would not be a magic wand. The converse also holds, a defeat is not a single fatal blow. What we believe about our own selves and our sexuality, the direction that this society has moved in, the expansion of spaces that we have felt as individual queer people in this country, across our cities, big and small, is not something that this court can undo. So the social life, the social relevance of this judgment has not been decided today. Its legal relevance has been decided, and what shape it takes is what we will do and what meaning we will give it when we come together from here on. And I just want to add to that question again about us this is not a question of us simply accepting a judgment that has been handed to us by a higher authority. Okay? The court rules in our names. So what we're also saying is, what has happened in the last 10 years in this country, from before Nas, that Nas gave a boost to and it strengthened and emboldened, cannot be undone. So certainly there will be a backlash, but there will also be the momentum we have created to take forward. And I think it's very important for us to remember that this is not a community that is any more voiceless, not that it ever was, that is any more going to accept a verdict on its identity and sense of self, which means our ability to negotiate with the police is much stronger than it used to be. Our ability to negotiate with communities and families is much stronger than it used to be. So yes, I will absolutely agree. We have been made vulnerable again. We have been exposed again. We have been abandoned by the Constitution of this country. But we are not going to simply accept that situation and decide that they will roll over us. And I think this moment could well, in the long durée, be looked back as a moment that galvanized and mobilized a wide spectrum of response against this law, that galvanized a moment around new thinking on sexuality. This country does not think the way it did 5 years ago. And look at this moment. We have just mourned the loss of a person like Nelson Mandela. We have just mourned the loss where our president went and stood there and said that Mandela's loss was as much India's loss as South Africa's loss, because he stood for what we believed in. But Mandela was one of the most vocal supporters for LGBT rights in South Africa. The South African Constitution stood by their citizens. And if we can go and mourn for Mandela while insulting his legacy, then we have lost our way as a society. But that does not mean we will not find it again. And I think I just want to again and again say that we're not going to stand up here and tell you a story of defeat and helplessness. We are a community that has always known this fight will take a long time. It's going to take even longer than we thought. But this is our lives. There is no question of giving this up. I was asked by a reporter today, isn't it daunting to fight the Supreme Court? But you know what's daunting? What's daunting is that moment when you're 15 years old and you're terrified of who you are. If we have survived that, the Supreme Court does not know what fear looks like. We know. we have to tell today that in the long course of human history, dignity only moves forward, and it will move forward in this case.
Love it.